The Wyoming Council work session will be starting. And we have a couple motions that we have to vote on. One is the floodplain manager. The next motion is the tax certification fee. It is $5 right now, and to catch up to speed, they're going to put it up to 15. This has nothing to do with the residents at all. It's just what the tax collector gets from the county. So. We're going to have a motion also to appoint a fire police captain for hose company number 1. And a motion to appoint a fire police captain for hose company number 2. Another motion to approve the waiving of hose company number 1 permit fees for the acquisition development of property located on 133 East 8th Street. Is there any other motions anybody wants to talk about? Or anything anybody wants to talk about?
Lean forward.
Thank you.
Rachel Stark? There you go. Would you like to
Sure.
talk about what you're going to talk about?
Yes. You want me to face you guys or? Okay.
However you're comfortable.
So hello, my name is Rachel Stark. I am a lifelong resident of Wyoming on 7th Street, and I work for the Boy Scouts of America. I'm here to talk about, we have a program called Exploring. It's kind of separate from what you traditionally think of as a Boy Scouts of America, you know, the packs and the troops going out, building campfires and doing camping, things like that. This program is all career oriented. So basically what it is it's for students aged 14 through 20. They don't have to have any association with the BSA, or they can, doesn't really matter. It's enabling them to kind of discover their future. It's an opportunity for them to get hands-on activities and mentorship and things like that in a career field of interest, so that when they go off to school, not only do they know what they're interested in doing, but they have that experience. Something that I kind of like to allude to, I don't know if any of you have ever seen the picture of the pack of scissors that you need a pair of scissors to open. Well, that's basically what it's like applying for a job. I went to school for 4 years for environmental science. I had a lot of experience, or so I thought, until I applied to over 60 different places, and everywhere wanted me to have already done these internships all through college and have all these connections with people that I had no idea who they were. And this is that opportunity to get that. Right now we have a post at the general hospital, and basically the students come in twice a month and they get to explore different areas of the hospital. So they might know that they're interested in pursuing a career in health, but now they have that opportunity to check out radiology, to check out actual nursing, and to find out that they pass out at the sight of blood, so maybe that's not what they should do in college. We also have a law and government post with Judge Jennifer Rogers, if any of you are familiar with her. She does a phenomenal job, and that gets these students to meet key people in the community who are gonna help them get their foot in the door when they're out of college, or even help them decide that they don't really need to go to college to do what they want. What I would like to do here is to start a law enforcement post, or a public service post in general, where maybe it's law enforcement, emergency services, fire. We had a law enforcement post in Wilkes-Barre, just kind of to familiarize yourselves with this a little bit. We did have a law enforcement in Wilkes-Barre. It was insanely successful. We had about 30 students there, but unfortunately.
Excuse me, what years was that?
This was about 2017 to kind of recently. Officer Collins ran it, and unfortunately he's been removed from duty, and they have not put someone in that position, so they've not been able to jump up, and there's still students there that were really, really interested and have not had that opportunity. It was awesome though, because every other week they would come in to the Wilkes-Barre law enforcement area, and they would do things from ride-alongs with police officers. They got to do the dogs, meet the dogs. They got to do like just all sorts of different things. I'm not entirely sure, I didn't go to every meeting, but it was really, really, really awesome, and it got these kids excited about law enforcement. Some don't stick around, some bring their friends and realize that this is really what they want to make a lifelong career out of. The coolest part about it is you might have kids who aren't interested in pursuing a career in law enforcement, but they're going to get the citizenship growth, character development, things like that, that scouting really, really aims to do. So it's an awesome opportunity. It's a great way to cultivate some future employees. You could use them for different community events. I know if we have like one of the rec board, I am on the rec board too. If we have one of the rec board events like the Easter egg hunt over at the field, you can have these students work to help control traffic, help control the kids. It's really, really cool. They get involved in the community service aspect of it. The cool thing about our end, the BSA, we have a general liability insurance, so that not only covers all of the kids if God forbid something went awry, but it also covers the borough. You probably see a lot of stuff in the news right now in general about the BSA, stuff that happened back in the 1970s. And obviously that has nothing to do with what's happening now, but just to, again, make you familiar with the situation. This is all stuff that happened in the 1970s and really had nothing to do with the BSA. In some cases, these units were meeting at churches and things were happening. But because it was a BSA unit, that church is totally protected and the BSA is covering the insurance on it. So that it would be the same thing here if God forbid anything did happen. I do have some literature that I would like to give you on that. So these are, I brought the fire and the emergency services. So I don't know, I brought a little bit of everything. And then these are the actual packets explaining everything about exploring. And then this is kind of my write-up. So it's a really, really good program. Honestly, I think I would love to get exploring in every community in the world, really, but especially here in my district. It's one of these programs that I wish I was involved in when I was in high school, because this is really what's going to prepare the kids for the future. And there's nothing going on. I'm sure these guys can tell you that there's nothing going on in our schools right now that's really, really preparing kids for what it's like in the real world, especially for what careers they're interested in. And this gives them that. So.
Yeah, I know you spoke with Chief Mercavage. He can't make it tonight, but he
Yes.
definitely was interested in it.
Yes, and one of the other guys on the board, and I don't know his name unfortunately, but he said he ran one in Washington DC that was incredibly successful. I don't know if you know who it was. Me? Yeah. But anyway, so he's a person who might even like to get involved.
Okay.
Okay? Anyone have any questions?
I'll help you, Jerry.
Okay, great, thank you. Yeah, so we could use as many volunteers as possible. My write-up does explain all of that kind of stuff. Anyone who would want to be involved, we would need to get clearances. That's what they get clearances for, just to make sure they are good to work with kids. And in the BSA, we also have a youth protection training, which I could do or it could be done online. But it's basically all of these barriers to abuse, we call them, extra steps that we take to make sure that nothing can happen in the scouting program to keep our kids safe, basically. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have one.
Oh, okay.
Where are the children from? Like, it would be our.
Yep, so it would be up to us, basically, where we want to recruit from. Wilkes-Barre recruited from everywhere, but we could specifically just recruit from Wyoming area. I did go to Wyoming area, and I have a very good relationship with Mrs. Serino, and she's more than happy to put the flyers in the school. We could reach across the river to Pittston area, too, if we'd like. So that would be our call, basically.
And it's just for males?
No, boys and girls.
Oh.
Yeah. Boys and girls 14 through 20. So that's when they're starting to think about the career, and it's definitely a good idea to start getting their foot in the door.
And this is something like you're saying with the fire emergency too, like we have our chief of one, our chief of two here.
Right.
Is that something that you guys would be interested in doing, like partner with? Okay.
And like I said, it's a great way to cultivate future employees too. You know, what better way to engage them now? That's what's going to keep them around. So.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Want to go over our meeting? Next, we're going to do them. Want to go over what you have in there now? I can swear these in the work session, unless you guys have something else you want to talk about.
No. The motion, don't we?
Yeah. Wait,
The only thing I want to say is, earlier this month, the mayor and myself we met with both leaderships from host company number 1 and host company number 2, along with our borough fire chief. We had very good discussions throughout the whole meeting. Discussed at the meeting was firebox changes, which was agreed upon by both departments and has since been implemented by 911. Also to add fire police to our host company number 2. Agreed by both companies that the level of leadership for both fire police at both companies would be 1 captain from each department. Currently, John Marinacci will remain the host company number 1's fire police captain, and Joel Skursky will be number 2's host company's fire police captain. And all members must be in good standing with their respective companies. So later on in the meeting, we'll make motions to reappoint Mr. Marinacci for number 1 and Mr. Skursky for number 2. But I thought it was a very productive meeting, so hopefully we can continue that way.
Yeah, and at the end of the meeting too, we'll be swearing in the members for number 2. So they have all their paperwork, the letter of good standing, and their basic fire police certificates. So that's all. You know, did Max make it? Is Max here or no? No?
No, man.
Just so everyone's aware, Officer Max McGurk, who stepped up when we needed him to during a time after Commissioner Flanagan had resigned, and when that whole debacle happened, he stepped up and was our officer in charge, and he did a good job during his time there. He has put in and been accepted to a position in Florida. So he has, he's actually off the road now for us.
Yes, Mayor.
Using up some time that he has, and he'll be heading to Florida next week.
Yeah, his start date is next week.
His start date's next week.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was hoping he was able to make it. I just have a little certificate that we'll get to him, just basically thanking him for his time here. He was one of our 3 full-time officers, and we have Chief Mercavage. We're actually, to try to be a little fiscally responsible, we're not gonna hire another full-time officer. We're gonna try to just do with the 32-hour part-time guys and move forward with that route and see how it goes. But I just want to bring that to everyone's attention.
Sure. Last month, you all passed a motion for us to look into the zoning situation is presently with the county. Right now, Luzerne County is handling basically all the zoning issues other than what we do with Pittston as far as the permitting, and they do the inspections. So I was able to speak with the head of the zoning department in Luzerne County, and Roseanne actually was able to make an initial contact with them, and then I met with the director. So in 2012, I believe, there was a motion made to the county where they took over. No one was able to let me know that there was a contract per se that we would need to get out of, but they said that what we would do is we do our own resolution wherein we'd indicate that we do not want the services of Luzerne County anymore. That would give us, we would supersede their ordinance basically by asking for it to come back. So my thoughts are, it's February now. We could put something on for next meeting, but what we need to figure out, I would say in the meantime, is you're going to just need to figure out how you want to handle a zoning appeals board, because that would be 3 people. The other ordinances that I prepared tonight actually require the same structure. So I don't know if maybe that's something you want to use for both, an appeal for, maybe the same people or just the same structure, where it's 1 person from administration, 1 person from council, and then the mayor would appoint somebody from the town that would be interested. So we would post for that, have them apply, and send in, a letter of interest basically. So I'm thinking, as we get closer to spring, there's just gonna be a lot more action for permits and construction and things like that. Now, again, this would just be the process of getting the permit, would be back here. Someone would then do their own work, we'd still have Pittston doing the inspections, like who comes out to the house, checks if it's
Building
okay. And so then the only issue would be if there's a violation, then it'd be, back here in Wyoming where a zoning board would hear. We would have, for just those purposes, there'd be a solicitor, not myself, but someone else that you guys would appoint to sit in to represent the borough at those meetings. So, and then it would, like I said, it's normally a 3-panel body that would hear the appeal. Same thing, the person would pay a fee to have the appeal heard. There would be a court stenographer there, and then the board would make a decision. If the person's not happy with that decision, they appeal it to common police court, which is basically down to the county. So it would just, I could draft an ordinance, basically, or a resolution, technically stating that Wyoming is going to reenact or take back, but we'll put it in proper terminology, Luzerne County processing. I did ask, what else it would take? Is there a contract that we would need to let them know that we're getting out of it? And they said, no, really, just whatever comes from the borough is gonna supersede anything that they have on file. So if during the meeting we can make a motion, I'll draft that paperwork for next month. And in case there's any, we'll just do a part where we're getting it back with a date. So I would think maybe, 60 days. So May, so we would officially put them on notice so that they know within 60 days. So that'd be into May, by May. And then it would give us time to also post for people who are interested or council who are interested. We'll advertise that next month. They'll have a chance to put in that they're interested in being on the zoning appeals board. I'm sure I'll think of something else in the meantime, but I'll have it prepared then for something for next month if everybody's okay with that moving forward.
So we can make the motion tonight then?
We can make the motion to draft the resolution to be presented
To bring back zoning.
yes, we would still have enough time because we'll technically we'll have it drafted and passed next month. And I think it would be a resolution. I don't think we'd need another ordinance for that, but I'll double check and have it prepared for next month. So just a motion to draft the legal paperwork in order to have the zoning brought back to Wyoming from Luzerne County.
Laura, I have
Yes.
a question. Did you say we needed a separate solicitor for that?
Normally there is another solicitor for zoning, and they're just as needed. I don't know why that is, but pretty much every borough has a separate zoning solicitor. But,
Okay, I was just curious on, bringing on another solicitor at the time.
yeah, everybody pretty much has a separate zoning solicitor.
Gotcha.
The cost, that wasn't, you know what I'm saying, stuff that wasn't budgeted for
Well,
that. Will it just offset what they're putting in, or
Right.
anything that?
Keep in
That
mind-
was my point.
Yeah, keep in mind that when there's an appeal like that, the person is paying a fee to the borough for
Right.
that. So, and that goes to offset administration, and I'll be honest, in other places, I know that they've actually just paid the bill. And in some of these, it's a little bit high, in the ordinances that I write, it's a little bit higher of a fee, and then we refund what's not used to the person. So if we get a stenographer fee that's $95, and you guys set an administrative fee of $150 or something, and the person's depositing $400, they get a check back at the end, they'll get refunded. But, it's,
And that would all be separate, those people who are on that would all take care of that separately.
the people on the board
That would be their responsibility, correct?
to write the checks and do all
Yeah,
that.
do all of that.
I don't know that,
Well, no, I was
unfortunately,
just looking at,
I actually think the payments come to the borough.
Well, no, I thought it was like totally separate. It's not though.
Unless they have their own
Usually is.
administrative staff, but I don't, not as far as the administrative staff, just as far as the appeals hearing and the stenographer.
Anything else? Anybody want to bring up anything, any councilman?
Yeah, on this extra
No,
solicitor.
Excuse me. I'm just talking to the councilman right this
Oh,
second.
I'm sorry.
At the regular meeting, if you want to sign in and speak, that'd be great.
I signed on that one. Oh, there's not one over there. I'm sorry, this is my first meeting.
You want to sign here and you could speak later on?
Perfect.
Yeah.
I don't think he's in the room. Yeah, sign it and then we have a
Absolutely.
position or a time slot that you could just speak in the regular council meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We will be getting into our regular council meeting in about 3 minutes, so just sit tight. Technically, we can't do it till 7:30, so.
Actually, then I'll talk about this for 1 second. When we talked last week about getting together some new ordinances, I wanted to just go over some of those so that at next month, we'll have them in a final form, and then this way they can be posted. So the two that I worked on were the one for peddling and soliciting, and the other one is for trash dumpsters. So when I was doing some research, because there's so much popularity with these pods, so I actually mentioned them by name, but portable storage units, it's up to you guys, and once we post it in a final form, then the public will have an opportunity to talk about that. But, so they're not in final form, but this is my working rough draft, was to ask you if you did want to include something like the portable storage units in these dumpster permits. My concern is not so much that, a dumpster, we're obviously preventing stuff from smelling and being left out and being out in the street for too long, blocking roadways. So I've addressed all of those issues. The dumpster fees are minimal. It's just to get the permit for the dumpster and then give a time frame so that they're not left out there for too long. Other boroughs, larger boroughs, not really around here, but they go as far as asking the companies to pay permitting fees. That's gonna be a debacle. We can't do that. But it puts the homeowner, and if you're a landlord, it's gonna put you on notice too. So the tenant or whoever gets it has to pay for it. But if it becomes a point where there's gonna be a violation, this puts the homeowner on notice that they are in jeopardy of getting a fine also. The fines are around $100 if they're there too long, and then they can only max out at $400. There's an appeal process if you get one. This puts it on the chief of police actually to monitor these. People will come in, they'll pay for they'll pay the amount, they'll get a permit for their dumpster, same as you get for construction, you throw it in your window. And then this way the chief will have a better idea because he'll have a written log of where these dumpsters are, how long they're out there, if they're, wherever they're at, they're on private property. I'll be honest, it's good that you're doing this because most boroughs have dumpster permit ordinances. This is, nothing new, but it's something that needs to be done. And it's really for the protection of all of the taxpayers, because as the weather changes, dumpsters are gonna start, people are gonna be cleaning out. So this again will put us in a time frame right before spring to get this enacted. The thing is, for an appeal for anything, it would be the same format. We'll have someone from administration, and it doesn't have to be someone from administration, you guys could set it up however you want. Someone from council, and then someone that the mayor could appoint from town who would be interested in serving on that board.
Is that in effect if you have the dumpster on your property or just if you have it on the street?
You need a permit to have it.
Either way, okay. All right.
So my thing is, you know, if someone, I'm just thinking practically here, a dumpster versus a portable storage. Portable storage probably means they're not filling it with food and a bunch of nonsense. They're having it, you know, just to,
Like a shed.
put their stuff in and hopefully bring it out. You want to avoid somebody putting that on the street and then leaving it there for 2 or 3 months. So, I don't know that we want to have someone have to have a permit for a portable storage. I think that's maybe a little bit excessive,
Well-
because someone's going to move and they're not even going to know they
Right, but
need.
the thing with that is it starts to affect traffic patterns for everybody else, and it starts blocking up parking, then people are, you know, you're parking their spot, you're blocking fire hydrants and stuff like that, so I think anything with, that's on the street, I think everybody would agree that if it's on the street, I think you should, because that's where it's
Okay.
starting to create an issue with, as far as, like I said, parking, traffic patterns, you know, especially in the winter time, if it's out there, you know, making the clearing the streets a little bit harder. So I think as far as, but I mean, I'm sorry, did you say if it's even on their driveway, they still need?
The dumpster permits they need, but I could make sure that we just have it in here. And I do have a lot of right-of-way stuff in here, so they can't block right-of-way for certain periods of time. And once it's full, it can only be there for a 24-hour period, it has to be out. But what we could do is, if it's gonna be on the street and it's a portable storage, they're gonna need the permit. And then if it's off, and we could just put right in here, if it's off, right-of-ways or off the streets, they don't need a permit.
Yeah, because, I mean, most towns don't have it for anything, and if it's in your own driveway, it's out of the way, it's not affecting any, you know,
Right.
traffic patterns, usually it's not up, but I just wanted to, you know, definitely think anything on the street should be some kind of,
Permitted.
well, some kind of, you know,
Regulations.
stipulations. There, you know, there has to be something, because it just gets too much as far as that.
I know
Mark,
past
I
time.
agree with Russ, because if I'm not mistaken, there is an ordinance here for oversized vehicles or any large vehicles. Am I correct, Mr. Chairman?
That's correct.
So if it's gonna obstruct traffic or anything else, for, no matter, it doesn't matter if it's 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, because the ordinance is even for 1 hour with these oversized vehicles. Campers, buses, correct?
Correct.
So I agree with him with that, for a fee.
I know we're over time, so I'll address a little bit more when I'm giving my report.
Okay. Wyoming Borough Council meeting, February 10th meeting, now in session. We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mr. Logan,
Present.
Mr. Skull,
Here,
Mr. Lipsky,
Present.
Mr. Borzel,
Present.
Mr. Herron,
President.
Mrs. Smile. Present. Mayor Dominic.
Here.
Attorney Dennis. Here. Thank you.
At this time, we want to recognize a couple of individuals from Wyoming. And the Wyoming Borough Council members would like to congratulate Linda Lewis, owner of Chuck's Auction, who was inducted into the Pennsylvania Auctioneers Association Hall of Fame. And of course, Jim Lewis, of course, was inducted back in 2005, so both of them now have been inducted into this Hall of Fame for auctioneers of Pennsylvania. And we do appreciate your what you've done in Wyoming and your residents, and we do appreciate that. And if anybody has anything to say, any of you guys have anything to say, you could speak right now if you wish.
Thank you very much. As a long-time resident of Wyoming, I'm very honored to be here tonight. Except for Friday nights when I'm up in front of the audience, I'm pretty much a behind-the-scenes person, so, and usually like it that way. So this has been quite a wild ride, and I'm very honored to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
We need the approval of minutes. We need a motion to approve the minutes from the January 2019 meeting.
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Borzell, second by
Second.
Mrs. Smiles. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any noes? Now we'll have officer reports. Reports of the police department, street commissioner, and code enforcement officer for the month of January 2019 have been submitted and placed on file for public inspection. Reports and committees, administration, finance, and grants, Mr. Skaltz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A motion be made, needed to appoint a new floodplain manager. Also, a motion be needed to, as per request of Paul Kanopka, to amend the ordinance for the tax certification fee from $5 to $15 to get the current level of what are the town's charging. This tax certificate ensures the information is up to date and accurate. Title companies, realtors, and abstract companies pay this fee. There is no cost to our residents. Also, Wyoming Borough received a renewal contract from Comcast. The contract will need to be reviewed before the renewal date of August 2020. That's the end of my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Skaltz. Emergency service, police, and fire departments, Mr. Skaltz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Fire Company Number 1 presented a letter to the borough asking if they can waive any fees associated with the acquisition and development of Wyoming Host Company Number 1 property at 133 East 8th Street. Motion will be needed to approve Fire Company Number 1's request to waive the permit fees for the property located at 133 East 8th Street. That's the end of my report, Mr. Chairman. I already did that.
Okay.
And also, and also a motion will be needed to reappoint John Marinacci to Fire Police Captain for Host Company Number 1, and a motion will be needed to appoint Joel Skursky, Fire Police Captain for Host Company Number 2. That's in my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Skaltz. Health and sanitation, Mr. Borzell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have it here, but I have a few things. There was some question even with Mrs. Appleby a couple of times that she's a little disappointed that she only puts out a couple small bags of garbage. I spoke with the company, but unfortunately, when we put them on, we signed a contract. It's a contract for 3 bags, one each per household, with one address is 3 bags of garbage. Now, there's been a lot of complaints, more than one, where people are putting out several bags of garbage over the 3-bag limit. So I talked to the person at the company, and she was very, very shocked about it, and she was surprised that the workers are picking it up over a 3-bag limit. The only way will be over 3 bags if the same household has an apartment. Then you can get 3 other bags additional. And she was gonna check it, have the manager and follow the trucks, the ones that have been abusing this for weeks and months, actually, from the new contract. And she's gonna look into that, okay?
But if, isn't it, if there is an apartment, the apartment has to pay a fee anyway.
Yeah,
So it's
you
not
have to
like
have
they're
enough
they're not getting-
per address, per sticker.
Right, okay.
It's 3 bags.
Right, right.
But there's some people are abusing the thing with 12 bags, 14 bags, and it's not gonna happen anymore. They're gonna watch it, see what's what. Okay, and another thing too, this has been going on for years as far as the health part of this or whatever I would include it in. I have a dog, I'm a dog lover, pet lover, the way it is, but there's lots and lots of people curbing their dogs and not cleaning up anymore. They're going in, people have the retractable leashes, and they're going 30 feet, whatever, and they're going in people's yards. The majority of this is going anywhere between 9 to 2 o'clock in the morning when it's dark. And they come out in the morning, this has been going on for years, and they got no response, because it isn't a very important, I guess, to go out and look. The best thing I told them is a lot of them have cameras or take pictures, and they will be cited. And I told them I was gonna look into the ordinance, we do have ordinances in for that, and fines. But I'm gonna look into it and see even if it has to be increased. Because people keep their yards nice. We have a dog, my wife cleans up I have to admit, she does probably 2 and 3 times, sometimes a day in our yard. We don't even walk our dog around, not that you can't. But people feel, a lot of people feel, and they're coming from other towns too. Don't get me wrong, it's not only from Wyoming. And they feel their dog can go wherever they want, whenever they want. That's not the point. You can't do that anymore, especially if you don't clean up. So they're gonna be watched, and I'm gonna look at the ordinances and the fines, and if we have to, I'd like to make a motion even to increase that. I'm done, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Barzell. Personnel, Diane Smiles.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, there's no report at this time.
Thank you, Mrs. Smiles. Public property, Mrs. Smiles.
Thanks again. Recreation Board is planning on holding the annual Easter egg hunt on Saturday, April 4th at 11 a.m. Rain date will be April 11th, and that is the end of my report.
Thank you, Mrs. Smiles. Streets and sewers, Mr. Herron.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We just want to report, Wyoming Borough Council members want to remind residents of snow removal ordinance. Must be cleared within 6 hours when the snow has ceased. This way, we keep safety at its max and not have any problems. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Herron. Zoning and planning, Mr. Lipsky.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, nothing to report, and, but I think down in the future, once we become more responsible here in Wyoming for the zoning, there'll be much more. That's all I have. There's no other reports.
Thank you, Mr. Lipsky. Solicitors report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We did discuss the zoning and planning update, so I'll move forward with getting that language together for next month so that we can move forward, bring the zoning back to Wyoming. As far as the trash and dumpsters for what we just talked about, the portable storage units are not going to be required to be permitted unless they're on the street. I believe the permit fee is just going to be $20, and that'll just go right to the borough. So 25? Is everyone okay with 25?
What's this one, John?
Okay.
So we'll do a $25 fee, and you'll obviously be able to read more, but it's pretty in detail. We have it 15 feet, you can't be within 15 feet of an intersection or a crosswalk, 15 feet from a fire hydrant, can't be on the sidewalk more than there's specific rules that'll be written in here for placement. So we'll move forward with that. I'll get a final draft together, make these changes for next month. And again, then you'll be able to, we'll put in there the time period after that to create this appeal.
There will be an amount of time they have to have removed, though, right? That you can't put in and leave it, your $25 doesn't let you put it there for 6 months.
No, I think it's,
Usually a week and 10
I was gonna
days.
say, I think it's 30 days. Do you have an old one that they just don't?
Usually it's a week to 10 days. Usually a week to 10 days. Because usually only dumpster companies only give you about a week with your rental.
They actually make it, I have it broken down to, it's a big long word, but it means non-putrid items, meaning construction supplies can stay there because they aren't going to smell if it's wood and that kind of stuff. If it's a dumpster that's containing food products, so we have a waste dumpster, a construction dumpster, and then the portable storage unit. So the construction dumpster, they give you a little bit longer, so if they have to leave it, but they might change it out. We're just saying if you have the permit, you have 30 days to do whatever you need to do. So like you said, if they only let you have it for a week, they might bring you a fresh one. You don't need to get another permit then. So we'll leave the construction one there a little longer, but it does say if anyone is full, they have 24 hours, it has to be removed within 24 hours. The other one is for the peddling and soliciting. Just to make it comfortable, there's a lot of exceptions to this. This isn't meant to punish any, like the Girl Scouts from selling cookies or any of that kind of thing. This is for people that are for-profit, going to be going door to door, and asking for services from citizens, and I commend you all because this is put in place to protect the citizens, to make sure that someone who's approaching their door, knocking on their door, is in fact who they say they are. If someone knocks on their door in Wyoming after, they'll be able to call the borough. The chief of police will have that list of everyone who has a permit in order to peddle or solicit, and make sure that this is in fact the person that they say they are. They're gonna get, we'll get this figured out, but there'll be some kind of license that they'll be issued, and they're to have that with them the entire time when they're going door to door. So any resident will know that they'll be able to ask for that. Now, this is for people that are for-profit going to peddle and solicit business. This is not gonna be farmers on, down at the farm stand, or even like if someone's going door to door for, there's a lot of different exceptions, but like if they do like the petitions for politicians or something, you don't need a permit for that. But there are gonna be hours in here, and there's nothing on Sundays that you're gonna allow. But it's to protect everybody, make sure it's safe, so no one's knocking on your door at 10 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock at night. So if there's any, we did the same thing, and I could make that one $25 too, for the license, for the permit for that.
That's yearly?
I'm sorry?
That's yearly for that permit or what?
It's actually, no, I think we did it, there's 2 fees. Actually, because these are for-profit businesses, I think I have it at $50. And then if you want to, that was for a month. And then if they wanted to get a yearly permit, I think I did it so that there's like a discount, that they, they're obviously not paying $50 a month. So if you guys want to make a suggestion, or if you think that's too high.
It would depend on who they are, because that gets touchy sometimes, because there's different people that they have like meats, special meats and stuff like that. I think it's, what was it, Schwartz or something like that it's
Well,
called?
keep in mind, they're delivering.
Okay.
They're not necessarily going door to door, but if they are, they're gonna need.
Oh, okay.
And then we also say in here that if the state regulates anything that they're doing, or the county regulates anything they're doing, they have to produce those licenses to the borough in order for us to issue you a license.
And of course, those that live in the borough, that are residents of the borough, I should say, and have a business, of course, which have to have
Sure.
consideration for that as well.
Okay. Do you want to make them exempt, or?
I would. If they're a resident and they have, a business in the borough, I think that they should be exempt,
Okay.
They pay taxes.
And again, these are into this draft, so once it gets posted, the public will have a chance to comment, and you guys will have a chance to change it if there's something you don't like in here. But Mr. Lipsky, I did have written in for there to be a discount if they wanted a year-long one. But if there's an amount that you think is good for the whole year.
We could discuss that later on, I suppose.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. And that's all I have, thank you.
Mayor's report.
The only thing I have left, we listened to Rachel Stark, so I'd ask council if they're in favor of that to make a motion at the end of the meeting to move forward with the Boy Scout program. The police department responded to 162 incidents this month. And like I said, I just wanted to congratulate Officer McGurk on his appointment to Florida Police Department. And then at the end of the meeting, once the meeting's over, we'll be swearing in the fire police for hose company number 2. And I think that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Floor is open to the public. Pat Scalanger.
Good evening. I have 3 questions. My first one is, at our December meeting, the mayor said he was going to have the Wyoming area football team come down to be recognized. And I was wondering if you were still doing that.
I did reach out to, who did I talk to? Drawing a blank on who I talked to. Russ, did I talk to you about that, or was that someone else over there? And there was a lot going on, and we said it might not be the certain
Yeah.
time to do it.
I think we talked about it very briefly, but nothing to where, because there was a lot of things going on where.
Yeah, because they were just down at the state level in Harrisburg, and Russ has something with them tomorrow at the courthouse.
Yeah, tomorrow at
Yeah,
the
tomorrow we have the
courthouse.
courthouse and,
You think it's something that we can get on the books, or you think it's too much
yeah,
for
I
these
mean,
guys?
if that's something we want to do, if we want to, bring them here, we could try to, I can talk to Coach Fonte, Coach Spencer, see if we can.
See if we get something set up for.
For
Yeah,
next
I
meeting,
think
maybe?
it would be
That'd be
nice.
good.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like I said, we knew, there was just a lot going on, and they were here and there, and now, do you want to talk about the experience they had down at the stakes?
Actually, yeah, I don't mind if anybody wants to hear it. We were honored on the floor by Senate, when, we were in the House, the House floor. It was a great experience. All the kids loved it. We got lunch there in the Capitol, so it was pretty nice. They gave us a whole tour of everything. It was,
And
very
that's what
nice.
they're doing tomorrow too, right?
Yeah, tomorrow we're going to
That
courthouse,
was
we're
done.
doing the same thing. Coach Spencer's gonna throw a pass in the second level down to one of the receivers. So it's pretty cool, even at the whole, not just the community, but the whole state's been great. Like, it's been a great experience, but it's been great to be part of it too, so.
Yeah.
So it's pretty good, so.
Okay, good, I'm glad.
Yeah, so I'll talk to them, see if it's a possibility. I know they have a couple other things that's supposed to be lined up, so I'll try to find out if there's something that we can work out.
Well, I know Coach Fonte was supposed to go on a cruise, which they weren't able to do.
Yeah, I'm not sure when he's going yet.
Yeah, oh, he's supposed to be gone.
Maybe he is, yeah. We'll see, yeah.
Okay, my second question, you had mentioned about when we have a snowfall. I always thought when the snow stopped, you had 12 hours to clear your sidewalks and steps. What do people do if you want to clear it in 6 hours?
Well, of course, it's depending on time. I mean, they're not gonna expect to go out 2, 3 o'clock in the morning to finish it up. They just need, we're trying to get it to where the point of, if it's in the morning, get it cleared for, if it stops in the afternoon, get it cleared. If it's in the middle of the night and it stops, there's no.
How about if you're at work?
Well, of course, that's.
Yeah, that's what I
That's what we're
mean,
saying.
right?
There's stipulations to it. It's not like,
Okay.
we just want it clear for safety reasons. We don't want anybody, getting hurt or on top of getting in a car accident, someone swiping something or anything like that, So that's really what it's meant for. Also, we're supposed to have, if anybody pays attention to the streets where it snows on a certain day, I'm gonna start to implement parking on the sides of where, the odd days, Jim, how's it going, parking on it was like odd days, certain numbers, side of the streets.
Yeah.
Try to start paying attention, because it makes his job easier, makes everybody's streets better, so.
Yeah.
We can start doing something, but yeah, as far as the 6 hours, within reason.
Okay.
Of course, if you're at work or it's the middle of the night, we know, it's not, no one's waking up at 1 o'clock in the morning to go shovel snow, so.
Good.
Yeah,
Okay, my last question. I read in the paper this week where I believe Governor Wolf wants to implement all municipalities for each resident to pay a $4 fee. That's supposed to have something to do with the garbage.
No, state police.
The state police. Oh, yeah. How will that affect us? And as a resident, do we have to pay, and how often?
So, I think it was Mr. Borzell actually brought that up, if you want to talk about what you're.
We don't know yet how, it's billed as to the municipalities. And Wyoming just happens to be $4 per resident,
Right,
okay? And I'm trying to get more information because next town, Exeter, has double the amount of residents that we have. And I think they're paying the same amount, if not less.
That should only be for the
So-
towns that are covered by this.
No, it's for everyone, whether they utilize them or not. That's his plan, not mine. You know what I mean? I don't agree with it, but.
but it doesn't say.
Weren't you saying there was a higher fee if they use?
I don't know, I heard that, but all it said in what I read was just the amounts. And whether or not you use it. For one example, I believe Dorrance, if you know where Dorrance is, which they do utilize state police,
Right.
they're over $200,000 a year. They're gonna be billed.
Okay,
I don't know
but,
where they're gonna get that, you know what I'm saying, but
but
I'm trying to
how,
get more information in that, you know?
so you don't know how it would affect us? Like,
No, it's gonna cost, as the municipality, billed to the municipality as $4 per resident.
resident?
We don't know, when we find out what, we're not gonna be able to absorb it either.
That's why
That's what I
54
mean.
people a day are leaving Pennsylvania.
And then the paper didn't say if it's monthly, annually,
I think it's annual.
Annually.
I think it's annual.
oh, is it?
They're
Yeah.
trying to sugarcoat it a little bit
Right.
that, they don't wanna, you know, some people don't wanna charge the residents because that's the same thing as a taxi.
Right,
But the boroughs and the towns aren't gonna be able to absorb it.
Yeah.
This one comes out to about $12,000 a year for Wyoming.
And you have to understand also, it has to pass the Republican Senate and House, and then be signed by the governor. I don't think that's gonna happen. And they may not at those fees anyway.
okay, thank you.
Tom Scalandra?
Yes, I have the report for hose company number 1 for the monthly calls for January. We responded to 4 structure fires, 6 motor vehicle accidents, 2 fire alarm activations, 4 gas leaks, 9 medical assists, 2 wires down, 1 flooding call, 1 CO alarm activation, 1 miscellaneous incident, and 1 public assist. We responded to 14 calls in Wyoming and 17 in Exeter for a total of 31 calls. All right, and now, aside from the hose company, I have a question.
Yes.
After the last snowfall, was the house over here on the corner of 7th cited? The sidewalks weren't clean for 2 days.
The corner of,
7th and Wyoming Avenue. The
What happened?
former borough manager's property,
I don't know.
because the snow was on the sidewalk for 2 days after.
Mr. Noble, do you know anything about that?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I don't.
What
I'd
happens,
have to defer to the chief of police on that one.
what
Okay.
happens to a property that's vacant?
We actually had that happen. There was a commercial property on Wyoming Avenue that was vacant. It was up for lease for a long time. A couple of the residents did complain, and we were able to reach out to the realty company, and they took care of it.
Oh,
Again, it wasn't as quickly as we would like to have had happen, but they did send somebody over. So in that case, it wasn't a personally owned residence, it was a commercial residence, so a little bit easier to track down somebody.
okay, thank you.
People have to be more responsible for their property.
Yes, they do.
That's what it comes
And
down
it's
to.
really about safety, folks. It's not about giving people fines. We really don't, we don't want people to fall and get hurt when they're walking the dog.
Yeah, I don't wanna get hurt.
No, me either.
Thank you, officer, I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Florence Aquilino.
Everyone. First goes out, I don't have to do that, I have a little grocery shop.
Right.
Have some consideration, come on.
When they signed the contract, Florence, like I told you last month. I
Let you
didn't
to
know
buy
about the
bags.
contract. They don't,
Everybody take so many bags, like a dozen a bag, 12 dozen a bag, $15, something like that. And then we fill it up with the bags. The one they use that children on a garbage, you know, with the diaper and so on and so on. I'm alone.
well,
I have a little check, I have to scratch it.
I understand that, but we can't deviate from what the contract is. It's a minimum 3 bags.
Well, Kingston they're doing, Pittston they're doing, Wilkes-Barre they're doing. Why not Wyoming?
They're using bag.
Bags, that's what they use. They're using gas.
We're trying to get out of the garbage business. It's just this year with the reconstruction of everything, we are trying, we tried this year, but we couldn't get a contract like we discussed last time.
Well, have names here.
Okay, but we didn't have it in time, so we are gonna try it for next year to where anybody, if they want to get their own private, they're gonna be more than welcome. We're gonna work
I
on
can
that.
get a private.
We're gonna work on that,
Well, we have
so that
Tom
hopefully.
Corey, for example, they're $2.50 per bag.
I totally understand, you don't have to be out there, I understand.
CK,
I get it, everybody in here gets it.
same thing with that private house.
Everybody in here gets it,
I
they
think
feel the
of the
same
phone
way.
calls. Don't worry, I take the phone calls.
Okay, everybody in here feels the same way you do, believe me.
No, I can pay. I don't have a $250 to pay for a little shopping bag a week.
I
And
understand.
I have to put all my Kleenex, and I have to put all the dirt from my shoes to fill it up the bag. I mean, it's not funny.
I get it.
If you
Everybody
had my
gets it.
predicament,
Everybody
you
gets
know,
it.
you will know, Mr. Barr. You will know.
We're stuck in it right now.
It's ridiculous. I had a whole year, from last year at this time, I was here.
Well,
How about the apartment buildings that are empty that you still have to pay for the fee? How many of those do you have vis-a-vis occupied structures?
That we don't know.
Well, I'm just saying that might offset that situation.
Any homeowner is supposed to have garbage sticker. There's not, I mean, that's not our call. That's the, that's the city, that's what we had in place before we even got here, so, it's not.
We used to have a garbage sticker, but the city cost a lot of money to print the sticker on the window,
I get it.
or on the door, or on the forehead. You gotta do something. Senior citizens, we don't have much to live, and we struggle.
Well,
Either hard medication, always, my nutshell.
I wasn't on this
Which is
part of this,
sanitation all day.
Lawrence, I wasn't on this part of the
I'm
council in
upset,
this contract.
very upset. I'm not gonna stop until it's reduced.
But I understand, until this contract is over, it
I
has
was
to
over
be
last
paid.
year, a whole year, I was here a year ago.
It's actually 2 years, 2 years.
2 years.
So,
Last year before was,
Well,
we had the rainstorm, I remember
Yeah.
that we packed, I went and framed it up that
Yes,
way.
yes.
I went to the meeting, I made some noise over there.
great job.
I
Bottom
did.
line is, I mean,
Somebody walk out, but I stayed.
So we did, like I said last time, we did try to look at if we
Well,
were to go.
I'm not paying no garbage sticker. I don't care accumulator. I put it on, I'll get a dumpster and I'll put it on my own.
I don't look
I'm
at
not
the
joking, Mayor. I'm not
I know,
joking.
but I'm just trying to tell you, like, we
You
did,
know,
I know
didn't pay.
Councilman Scalds called places, I called places, and they actually ended up being more than the
it ended
250.
up, it ended up being.
And we
Well,
talked
I
to
could call
Roseanne.
everybody in the list and on both the side of the valley.
How much?
And nobody here, and your people you could call.
She pays
A whole
$360.
list I have here.
We-
All the way to Scranton, Avoca, Musica, Laughlin, This is
I know.
ridiculous.
There was,
I'm not gonna say anything, but I did notice, if you're reading the paper, Exeter, I don't have the figures, Exeter, West Wyoming, they're like $180. I mean, who are they having, we can't have a deal like that.
Why can't
So
we?
we reached out to the people that Exeter use, they did not want to touch our borough because of our streets. They said it's too tight, and with those trucks that lift it by themselves, Roseanne sent RFPs out to everybody.
I see in the avenue, boof, coming up and pick it up, and what's the picture? I saw the other
You
day.
can't force them
I
to
was
want to
right
work with us.
behind.
Roseanne did
I'm
reach out
just
to Waste,
curious why
yeah.
they were having a good deal,
we had,
who were they dealing
Yeah,
with?
we reached out. I
It's
mean, how
not
many
so much
RFPs
that they have the
County
deal, they
waste,
bill us
waste
so much and we have to pay them.
Well, I already paid
I
my
mean,
Okay,
they're-
what do you
they're
pay for my
billing us-
scale? I
they're
noticed
billing us
here you pay
$300,000.
$240 for my scale.
It's
How
not
many
the
fam will we have in Wyoming?
What you're talking
How
about, what
many
you sound like you're
families?
talking
How many
about is just
homes?
there's
individual,
1,200.
Right.
paying your own
Stickers, I
individual
believe.
hauler. If you do that.
1,200 stickers.
But what they bill us,
$1,311.
they bill us
I think everybody
$300,000.
shot it when I was $50.
I can hear about
A lot of them are commercials as well, so commercial.
We can make it nothing if we raise your taxes.
And they have to send us the contract.
It's been done already.
No, but I'm saying that's all,
Let's cut that and set it forward.
okay, order.
Okay, let's go. I didn't get how many.
Okay, I just
families we
wanted
have.
to, I just
Average
wanted
about 1,200. She sends out about 1,300, but that's including some commercial that supply us then with proof.
1,200, all right?
About.
Now, we used to pay the sewage $200 a year. What do we got?
What's that?
What do we got out of that?
Out of the sewer?
Yeah.
It went down to
You know, I'm not a fan of that. We reduced it to 50 and
Yeah.
that sewer fund was
Well, where's all
basically,
the money go? Already you got the grant from the state to do all that work. I did my research.
the sewer though, they were using that money
For
as
what?
to
We didn't
pay
do no
bills, because
sewage
they weren't,
repair.
instead of raising the taxes or figuring out to cut the budget or anything that we've been trying to do to save the taxpayers' money, the previous administration took about $130,000 out of the sewer fund just to pay regular bills. That's not what it was intended for.
So that was not for the sewage then?
No,
That's
it was
for
not.
That's a tricky one, eh?
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. That's why the state police and the AG
Well,
are.
who's gonna take it off our shoulder or our mouth to pay something else that's enough for?
There's nothing we can do now. I mean, we're trying to.
Well, we better open our eyes because I'm gonna keep a looking.
The only thing we did was we lowered the fee from 200 to 50 because until we could figure out what they were doing with
There's no
it.
need to say he's gonna stay 200 because you don't use the money, you use it for something else.
What do we use for something else?
The $200.
Well, we don't now. I mean,
Well,
that
it's
was
$50 now, we're raising the garbage.
the garbage.
The storm water now, they're gonna raise it at you. The check doesn't get $18, we got it. Big deal.
I know, it's crazy.
I can't even fill it up a quarter of a tank of the car and I don't go nowhere. No time's up. I'm done. I'm done when I'm done. Don't interrupt, young man. Now. That's what I'm looking at.
You're welcome.
Now, I have a double block house. It's been vacant since October 21st, 1990. Mr. Regula died. And every time I come in, I forget. And every time I go Wilkes-Barre, I remember I have to stop into the courthouse. I pay this tax in a vacant site. I pay municipal school tax, and nobody lives in the house except my flower pots, they're empty. Huh? With all this money, what I gonna do?
Florence, it's vacant that long?
I pay for every penny in time in my tax. I take it off out of my cavity so I could pay the bills. That's an expression of it.
I know. I know you're not there.
So,
What was that?
if I pay my bills and my property has no income, it should be reduced. Please, figure that out.
Well, we really have no control over that because it's,
Well, it
We
has to
don't
come
have-
from the city. Send an inspector, come and check in the house.
well, I mean,
I have a picture when it was ripped apart and then never got repaired.
it's
and
just like a garbage fee. If you have an apartment, somebody, and you have two
You're supposed to
apartments and
pay
some,
for that
excuse me.
apartment.
If somebody is in the
One at a
apartment,
time, please, I can hear.
if somebody moves out of the apartment, you still have to pay a garbage fee.
But
It's-
nobody lives there, it's vacant. You wanna come and see it?
I know, but
You're welcome
that's
to come,
not,
all of you. You can
but
come
the
and see the
ordinance,
house.
I know, the ordinance reads that the garbage fee would still have to be paid.
Everything is shut off. No commode, nothing, no water, no gas, nothing, nothing. Only my drips are holding the way. That's it. Now, it's 30 years I'm paying tax.
Yes,
30 years.
yes. That's
Could you
correct.
convert it to, I mean,
Would you please stop and tell me what to do, please? I'm speaking. I'm not done.
are you trying to convert it to just one household?
No, I will when. I'm alone. I have no income.
Well, I mean, that's, the taxes on that property
Well,
is coming from
Somebody
the assessment.
mentioned that to me, as a matter of
It's coming
fact.
from the assessment.
Luzerne
Somebody
County.
told me that, yeah.
So you have to stop with them and have a
But
conversation.
I wanna
with
come
them.
out of from here first.
Yeah, but there's nothing we can
Nothing we
do.
can
What
do.
you could do is go to the Luzerne County and appeal your taxes. That would be something that would be
But
beneficial.
I'm saying, I pay the tax devotedly.
Tomorrow night, go to the meeting.
So why don't you rent the place then, to get the income?
Would you wanna come and see what it looks like?
Well, that's not my property.
And
I'm
that's
saying-
not your problem to speak it to tell me what to do. Don't pay
Well, you're talking about paying taxes for a property that you own, right, correct?
The property's there, the front structure's there.
Whose
It's
property is
mine.
Okay, so you say it's a double block?
Yeah.
So it's an investment property?
No, it's not investment, we bought like that many years ago, my dad sold us.
Okay, but my point is, if you have a property and you can create an income from it, that's.
There's no way that I could fix it, my house in my side is not fixed.
Okay,
How could I fix the next when I don't have no money to pay the garbage taker? You telling me?
listen, I don't know what your income situation is. I have no idea.
It's very little.
Okay,
very
that's not my
little.
business,
But you
it's
don't
not
tell
my
me how to
responsibility.
rent a house and have an income. There's
My
no
point
way.
is, you're talking about other people here on multiple properties, and they pay the same thing you do. Whether you choose, what you choose to do with it is not the council's,
I
is
devoted
responsibility.
paid because I thought I was gonna get a settlement, but I never got it.
But that's not,
And
that's
that's
irrelevant.
the end of that.
But that's irrelevant as far as what we're talking about. We're talking about each property has to pay,
When,
each property's
when I
responsibility.
see you go to Price Chopper, I look at the food and, walk it
Again,
away.
that's irrelevant
I
from what
look
we're
so
talking
on
about.
and walk it away. I look, but I don't buy. Because there's no money.
That's not what we're talking about here.
Okay, let's move on. Order. Let's move
That
on.
has to be done.
Yeah, we understand that
I'm done.
the resident, a lot of the residents are elderly and, their incomes are limited. And that's a very, very, hard situation, especially because, this world that we live in, makes you, just to run a home, you have to almost be middle class. That's really true. Yeah, really, to own a home, you really have to be almost middle class. And so, it makes it very hard on the residents that are on fixed income. And, we know what you're talking about, and we do appreciate you. And if you have any ideas, that would be great to.
I'm not speaking just for me, all the senior
Yes,
citizens
yes,
in
I know.
Wyoming.
I know, I appreciate it.
And that dad used to pay every 6 months, now it's full, you wanna be paid. We can't do that. We have other responsibility, medical insurance, medication. We
Mrs.
can pay
Aquilina,
Island for
I just want to make sure you
$250.
understand that you're talking about your taxes on your property.
Yes.
And I think, I don't want to speak for everyone here, but they understand what you're saying. But we need you to understand that your property taxes are not set by this governing body.
I hear you.
They're set by the Luzerne County Tax Assessment.
I know that.
When they set that tax, they collect it and they base it on the millage that is being charged by Wyoming Borough, Luzerne County, and the school district.
Right.
So any issue you have with them, no matter if it's the most legitimate issue you have, or if it didn't make any sense, that needs to be taken up with the Luzerne County Tax
I know, you
Assessment
have to pay a
Appeal
fee for
Board.
$50.
And then you can go and you can talk to them about the fact that it's empty, or maybe there's other issues on your street, or your house isn't worth what you paid for it at one time, and they could reassess that amount. So if it's your homestead, which I believe you said this is where you live, and you're talking about them wanting a payment in full, when you get your tax bill, it should actually have coupons on it, and they're broken up by 4. And you could pay quarterly when it's your own home. And you'll also get.
But they charge you.
There's a fee, but you can break it up in 4. And I don't know how much they charge. I didn't think it was.
It's face value.
I thought it was just the regular, you just don't get the discount if you paid it early in a lump sum.
That's what I'm trying to do, say.
You're still paying the regular face value on the amount. You can break it up in 4. And then you can also apply for a homestead exemption. It's just a couple dollars, it might be $40, it might be $80, but when it's your own home and you live there, they'll give you a little bit less, they'll give you a little break on your taxes for that.
$50 fee, we used to pay for your
No,
house back.
that's not the $50 fee. The homestead exemption is when they give you a break, a little bit of a break on the taxes that you're paying. So I just want you to know that everyone here is hearing what you're saying, but the entity that you could talk to about this and that where actual action can happen for you is Luzerne County Tax Assessment Appeal. And if you need some help, there's a number that you can call at the Bar Association, Luzerne County Law and Library.
39 square, yeah.
There's a group of lawyers, and I'm one of them, and lawyers volunteer, and you're on different lists, and you can ask for the real estate list, and they'll give you a consultation for $15. And you can come to their office and they'll go over with you maybe even how to just fill out those papers and get some advice on that. But those are things that you could do. You turn them into the county. You have from now until I think they moved it to September 1st. And it would be for your taxes the following year, and they'll send you a hearing date. You can go down with your information, and you'll sit in front of a panel of 3 people, and a clerk will sit there and type some things down, and you'd be able to address your taxes then.
I did it
Okay?
years ago, my ex-husband, that was alive. I paid twice $50. I went for the hearing, and they turned it down because he was alive. And my 2 boys, they were home at the time, and I couldn't get no redemption.
Okay, and if you're not happy with that, you could still have that appealed to the Common Pleas Court. So it's not just their decision. You could appeal to Common Pleas Court. And if, like I said, if your house isn't worth what you paid for it, or there's other outstanding factors, you could bring that up to that appeal board. But the folks here are not, what you're saying is not lost on them, and I know that
I
they're.
thank you for your advice.
Okay? Yeah, thank you.
Now, as far as go to the garbage, why we have to pay full fee all at once, not 6 months?
So the way that works is when we use a garbage company. So we sent out multiple requests for proposals, RFPs. They went out to multiple different companies saying, hey, we're open, does anyone want to work with us? We got 2 replies, and we went with the cheapest. Councilman Scalz and myself did call people around and see if it was cheaper to go and let everyone get their own. There are issues with that because then some people won't get anybody, and then you have sanitation issues. So there is that other route. But what they do is it takes the number of households, give us a lump sum, and we basically divide it out. And then you have to factor in like fees and everything else and the cost. So that's when you see that $23,000.
Right.
I think last year that was what,
16,009 something now.
So they
it's
raised our
23.
fees. So the borough's not in a position where they could eat that money. So unfortunately, it gets passed back on to all of us, because if only 2 companies want to work with us and we go with the cheapest and they raise their price, we're sort of stuck.
Yeah, but try to have a consideration for all the senior citizens, not me alone.
No,
All the
believe
senior
me,
citizens.
I understand, and that's why we offer the discount if you pay it early.
$10.
But if you look at the amount, I mean, that went up, we were paying 16,667, I think was last year's. So now it's at 23, whatever it is, 23,992. So that's how much they raised it on us, because the tipping fees at the landfill went up and everything went up. Unfortunately, we're locked in with these guys for 2 years. And to be honest with you, I don't know what their bid would even be in 3 years. It might be crazy. So we're tossing around ideas and trying to think of different ways to look at it. But we definitely hear your concern. Unfortunately, it's one of those things where, we've had people come in multiple times and talk. I know we've discussed it multiple times, and I was shocked that only 2 people replied, to the point where
We bid it out twice.
we bid it out twice just to see what was going on. But only 2 people, and then we called them and said, hey, why didn't you, because we called around different places saying, hey, would you be interested if we went private? Could we get some pricing? So we were trying to get pricing. So Councilman Scalz called a couple people, I called a couple people. The one I called, I said, hey, how much is it if we go, so we have an idea for a resident, what they would pay. And they're like, oh, we have different can sizes. And he's like, oh, we actually saw your request, but we didn't want to do your streets because our machines don't work, because we have to have different.
I see it the way.
So that sort of explained why they didn't.
I don't have much to pay, so
Yeah.
I was be honest. I slowed down because the garbage, and it's kind of neat, to
Yeah.
pick it up, I don't know a lot of manpower to pick it up.
But I mean, it was funny because the gentleman actually said, he goes, oh, where are you calling from? And I'm like, I'm in Wyoming. And he's like, oh, well, we couldn't even do your contract. So they weren't even interested, like some of them, some other ones just didn't reply. We had no idea why. But I know Roseanne lives in Harding. She pays $360 a year, and she uses a private hauler. So she can use whoever she wants.
I had 2 jobs, I had a little check.
No, I understand that, but I'm just saying, we did the best that we could under the circumstances. If we only have 2 to choose from, because that's all that replied, we're sort of stuck between a rock and a hard place because we don't have any other options.
Okay, how are we gonna pay now $240? Now I just saw tonight after the February the 7th, go back to $250. What they used to pay 6 months at the time. I remember paying $60 a year.
We never had six payments?
And then it was 90. Oh yeah, I have all the paper.
6 payments? Or are you
No,
saying
no, 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 no.
$60?
You pay $60 for the year.
$60 for the year?
Then
Oh,
you're going 70, 80, and $90
think
for
so.
the longest time.
but like I said, the perfect
But we used
example
to
of that.
pay every 6 months, $45.
Well, the problem with, we did cut it back.
Why can we
Because
pay
we,
every 6 months?
because we have to pay that amount, that $23,000 every month.
That's crazy.
Last year it was 16.6. It's the same company, but they're the cheapest that we could get to wanna work
I'm
with
not
us.
gonna be able to pay the garbage until July because I have a medical bill to pay. So if you wanna take the garbage, they take
up until May anyhow?
Yeah, for the seniors,
Senior
it's
senior.
240 up until May, yeah.
I saw that.
You have to also, thank you very much, Florence, I appreciate that.
I didn't sign up, so I should be speaking, but my thing is, it used to be, if you were a senior citizen, I'm going back, you paid $190.
Yeah, well.
And then the other residents that weren't senior citizens paid $200. But last year and this year, if I'm correct, everybody gets the option of the $240 up until February 7th. Then anybody that's not a senior citizen after February 7th pays the full amount, but the senior citizens still have the option until May, but that's no deal. I mean, we paid ours at the beginning of January, but to me, why am I not getting that $10 I used to get? Like I used to pay $190
Well-
and you're not a senior citizen, so you paid the $200. I'm
Yeah.
not getting a deal at all.
No, well, the thing is, the garbage bill was 190 for like 10 years.
Well, I realize that.
It was.
But why am I getting my $10
Since
like as a
2008,
senior
even
citizen, a deal?
more than 10 years, and you're like, wow, we really, we really should have been put up maybe, $10 every 2 or 3 years. And finally, we were behind. We're like, wow, how are we owing all this money to the garbage? Because we weren't charging enough.
Well, I
Their
mean,
fees
I
kept
paid
going
my
up.
$240. I mean, I'm not
Yeah.
concerned about it, but it was just something that came to mind. I just figured we're not getting a deal at all. I mean, everybody's paying the same thing up to February 7th.
Yeah, and it's very, very hard situation, I mean, especially with this day and age, because
Everything's gone up, just pay it and keep
Oh, that
saving it.
stormwater fee is ridiculous. I mean, it's ridiculous. Okay, Paul Middleton.
114. Lived on 8th Street for 22 years. Mr. Paul Middleton, retired lieutenant with the Wilkes-Barre Police. My main reason for starting to come to the meetings is all the fees, the borough, the county, the borough, back and forth. And I just mentioned this $4 fee that the governor came up with. So I commend the mayor that you're cutting costs by not replacing that officer right now. But then sitting next to you talks about duplicating another issue is duplicating of services and positions. God knows this valley likes to spend money. And then you stated, I'm sorry, you don't have your sign in for what your last name, dear?
Dennis.
Dennis. About getting another solicitor. So you're already paying one, now you want to get another one. And one of your reasons to justify that was the fact that all the other towns do it anyway. But that's like using the excuse when the state police pull you over, well, you didn't stop the 2 other guys that are going 10 miles an hour faster than me. And so I think we really need, as best as possible, if the person you already have could handle those duties, let them handle them, rather than getting a second person.
I just want to,
Or is there an issue with that?
I just want to clarify, because what you said was twisting around what I said.
And what was that?
There's no duplication of services, sir. I'm a solicitor for the borough.
Okay.
There would be a new body created for the zoning, because it's going to be a new entity now. It was previously handled by Luzerne County. Most boroughs have their own zoning office within the borough. So the mayor worked to get that back here, so then the fees are coming back to the borough. The permitting fees are coming in, some will go.
Will we need to pay additional fees?
No, we actually will be getting fees from the residents. If they do a zoning permit, the fees will come directly to us instead of going on to Luzerne
Instead of going
County.
to the county.
So right now, if you have to get a zoning permit, you pay the county, they do everything for us. We want to bring it back so that money stays in the borough, and it lets the residents have a say, the group, on if the project is approved or not. Everyone's got a stake in the game.
'Cause these are the kind of things that I'm getting really worried about, because I'm on a fixed income.
So what she's saying is, boroughs typically have a separation of solicitors so that she's not representing the borough, she represents the borough. This solicitor would represent the zoning board. She's not getting billed, she's not billing us during that time frame. So it's sort of a wash because her amount may be the same as that person's, or that person's might be less. But at the time of service, only one of them is doing service. And, but it's separating her and the borough from this board. So you're not double, no one's double dipping or anything like
It's
that.
really getting me nervous with these, like I said, this new thing. You got the $5 a vehicle fee for the county. Now the state police, even the towns that don't use the state police, there's no reason we should be involved in that at all.
And there is a lot of fees that we missed out on down at the Midway Shopping Center, say like when, Harbor Freight moves in. Well, we didn't get that fee, it was Luzerne County. If that came to us, that occupancy permit, you see all the money that we're losing, and that keeps the money in Wyoming.
Anybody do an addition to building,
Part of my
sign?
confusion, I'm just saying, please continue to look for any way. I know that you guys are trying to do that.
I know I'm confusing sometimes, my husband tells me.
No, not at all. No. But I made very good money as a lieutenant with the Wilkes-Barre police. But since I retired, I'm only making half of what I made.
Right.
So things are very.
Keep in mind, they only need a
tight.
solicitor when there's gonna be an appeal to a zoning issue. They'll file an appeal, and then that appeal is gonna be heard by the board, which would be the 3 people that are gonna be appointed. We'll figure that out, how they're gonna be appointed, but how I talked about earlier. And once they're appointed, then the person comes in for their hearing, and the solicitor's with that zoning panel. So it's not a solicitor that the people are gonna have to pay for all the time, or that's on a salary or anything like that. This is just an as-needed basis for the borough to have legal counsel just for zoning matters.
Right.
And it's not like we're adding a separate fee to the residents who want to improve something. They're paying that now, but it's going to the county.
Okay.
So
Then
instead
that's-
of,
then that's
it's
an
not, instead of the county
That's
getting it.
definitely an improvement.
Yes.
And just advice, a lot of times you don't need to come up with new ordinances. Like you were talking about the dogs.
I agree.
String, there's a thing called the Pennsylvania dog laws. That just because the borough doesn't have an ordinance on that, doesn't mean you can't go through the SPCA. I think, where did the policemen get off?
We do have ordinances, they're just
Yeah.
not enforced.
Oh, okay, they're on the books now?
Yes.
But you also have the option of using the state game and dog laws. So certain things that may not apply to the ordinances may already be covered under state laws.
Even.
Because I had numerous times I had, dog bites, had several of my officers attacked.
Right.
And there was already, Wilkes-Barre has an ordinance book about 5 inches thick.
Right.
It would take you your lifetime to read it. But they'd have theirs, the state would have theirs, and then once again, duplication.
I believe somebody had talked, Paul, your first name, Paul?
Yeah.
Paul. I talked to somebody about, like, all the adjoining towns usually around here, they all have, which is abused very badly, leash laws.
Right.
Certain people think that their dogs aren't gonna bite anybody or anything, and they're actually, I think, some people that we see walk by all the time are gonna, I think they're going to the state because people refuse to leash their dogs. And
Right.
They call them and whistle and they're gonna come back, but one of the times it is, they're gonna come back.
Right.
And they're gonna get big trouble. But another thing, Paul, if it's anything to you, with that $5 car registration fee, I believe this is the last year for that. They're getting rid of that, not us, but the county.
Keep thinking of any way they can to get you. And then on the pods, I don't think that that's gonna be construed as a vehicle under the definition by the vehicle code.
It's not.
Right.
So that's why we're saying.
Because you already have the law in the book, storage on roadways is 3 days. But that wouldn't fall under the definition of a vehicle.
I am glad, Mr. Warzel, I did want to follow up with what you were just talking about, and maybe this is half as a citizen, half as the solicitor. But I go running a lot in the mornings on the dike, and I bring my dog. I will not run down there without my dog. It is a circus down there some mornings, so I'm hopeful that maybe we can talk to the police about going down there. Last week alone.
Not only there, Lord, on the streets.
There were at least 4 dogs off leash, but the reason I mentioned it, when you mentioned the state, the Game Commission actually just, in the past 2 weeks, had some kind of announcement because dogs off their leashes are causing deer to go from where
Yeah,
their
they
natural
call it running,
habitat
it's called
is.
running deer.
And they're going on to the runway down there. I've seen at least 6 deer in the past 3 or 4 weeks where those deer are running, and I cannot help but think that it is not because there are multiple dogs. There's a woman, I feel bad, but I mean, they're down there throwing balls to dogs, they're running all over. And, you know, my dog's leashed, she's trained, but let me tell you something, there's a ball being thrown by her and a dog running, you know, luckily I'm a lot heavier than her, but it makes for a rough morning.
When they're on private property, they're supposed to be restrained at all times.
And our officers do patrol the dike, so I'll make sure they're aware of that as well. It's tough, like you're saying, it's between 9 and 2 a.m. when you're seeing most of this, right?
Well, that's with the dog, where they don't.
Yeah, so
clean up.
it's tough, it's not that we're not enforcing ordinances, it's more or less, if the residents see something, they need to let us know. You know what I mean?
Daytime too, I mean, there's a lot of.
No, I get it.
Leash laws are abused during the day.
And what's
That's
tough
what
with
I'm
our
gonna
borough
say
is
at night.
we're not in a financial position right now where we could have, 2, 3, 4 cops on at once. So when we have those cops on, not to say there's more pressing
Because
things,
those dogs can do
but
a lot of damage.
they can.
No, I'm just saying, this has been going on years and years and years, not just this administration.
Yeah, no, and I get it.
I'm
But
an
like you're
animal
saying, I
lover.
think you had a good point when you're saying if you got these guys on a lot of people do have cameras. That
Everybody
could,
has cameras anymore, a lot of them.
makes
I
life a
mean,
lot
these
easier for
phones
something like
are
that. I know what you're
I'm
talking.
an animal
I
lover,
walk
but
by
I've
my-
seen what some dogs have done to my former officers.
I've parked my truck on the side street, I live across from you.
Yeah.
I walked out the one day, someone took their dog bag and just threw it in the bed of my truck. I started on this. And what aggravated me is it was just out of the line of sight, so I couldn't see it. I don't know if it was done on purpose or what, but
Oh, it wasn't an
You must have fed it.
it wasn't an accident. Well,
Okay,
I got the
thank
truck
you,
loud.
thank you very much for your time.
Hey, thank you for your time. Thank you for your suggestions as well.
I want to say
Real
another
quick.
thing. Not real quick. It's a lot of the dogs, they are those bulldogs and so
Yeah.
on. Why don't you have them pass the law to wear a muzzle when they take it for a walk? Because they do kill children and adults.
Yeah, I agree.
Rip down. It was on TV the other night in Scranton.
We'll take that into consideration. Thank you very much.
Get the muzzle on. And if they're afraid to carry the poopy-doo with them at home, why don't we have the city couple trash container, concrete container that you retrieve the bag? A lot of the place I see in that,
They do have those on the dike. They
Man,
have the
that's on the
bags
bag.
and
I'm
the
talking
receptacles.
Wyoming Avenue both side. That would be nice. I mean, I used to have my little dog, I used to walk, and I used to walk at night. But I always, my little bag, and then I triple the bag with a Ziploc bag and put it in the garbage. But I think if they put the law with those big dogs, because one minute you're walking in the summertime, the next, poof, those dogs are dead here. I see on television, it's sad. And I don't wanna be one of them. I don't walk no more on the dike, because there are no police with the bike no more.
We appreciate it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Communication, a list of communications received since the last meeting have been presented to council, and we need a motion to accept the communications.
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Sculp's and Mr. Borzell, all in favor, say aye. Any noes? Motion passes. Payment of bills, a listing of bills paid and received for payment have been presented to council. We need a motion to accept the payment of bills.
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Lipsky,
I'll second it.
Mrs. Smiles, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any noes? We have resolution and motions to be voted on. Motion made to appoint a new floodplain manager.
I'll make the motion to appoint Joe Kopko.
Motion for Joe Kopko. We need a second. Need a second to appoint Joe Kopko for floodplain manager. No second? Okay, motion fails. to come to the floor. Need a motion to amend the ordinance for the tax certification fee from $5 to $15.
Just gonna have to make another motion.
What?
For what? Gonna have to appoint somebody, because it has to be done by February 29th.
Yeah. So,
So if somebody has anybody else to make a suggestion, appoint somebody.
Before we do that, the motion is on the floor to amend the ordinance for tax certification fee from $5 to $15. We need a motion.
Make a motion.
Mr. Borzell,
I'll second.
Mr. Herron, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any noes? Motion passes. The floodplain manager position here,
What exactly does that entail? Because I don't really know, so I wouldn't say one thing one way or the other. I don't know what it is.
Do you want me to read, there's a letter here from Pennsylvania Emergency
Go ahead,
Management?
go ahead, please.
Okay. Dear Chief Elected Official, Pennsylvania Act 166 of 1978, the Pennsylvania Floodplain Management Act, requires all flood-prone municipalities to regulate development occurring in their floodplain areas. All such municipalities are required to file an annual report with FEMA detailing all development permits issued with your municipality. FEMA is processing and tracking these reports for the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development. Please fill out the required form for the period October 1 to September 2019 by February 2020 online. For those who need to send in a hard copy, please download the form. The filing of a completed report is necessary online or by mail, regardless of whether any permits were issued or not. Copies of any floodplain management ordinances, updates, or amendments enacted by your municipality in 2019 must be uploaded online or attached to your completed hard copy annual report. PA Act 166 also authorizes the DCED to reimburse municipalities for 50% of the costs incurred in the preparation, enactment, administration, and enforcement of the required floodplain ordinances. If you incurred reimbursable costs in 2018 and wish to apply for reimbursement, please apply using the DCED single application for assistance under the Municipal Assistance Program. Be certain to include, it talks about 2 forms, and all substantiating documents as attachments to the application. Instructions for completing the application are found, gives their website, saying it has to be in by February 28th. So this looks like it's in compliance with the act for the previous year that you have to fill out. And then Roseanne actually has it already
Filled out.
prepared.
It's done. It has to be an official done.
So is this a new position? Have we had one before or no?
I don't think it's a paid
This-
position.
No, no, is it new? Is it new?
No, it's always been filled by the previous president of council. It has been for years. He was the one that was, that's who it was all the time.
Does it have to be?
There's also
Filled by the
a
president?
spot where we can check off so they can actually learn what their responsibilities are. So they can actually physically talk to somebody right here.
well, he's the EMA, I think that's.
I'm not sure if the president could even do that. We might have been doing something illegal for years.
I don't know, this is what I found.
I'm not sure of that.
There's been no changes according to the
No,
ordinance,
not
changed nothing, so I just,
Well, what is the deadline date?
So,
20th.
the 28th of February. So this floodplain manager, when there is a flood, you know, he enacts into his position and works with FEMA and
The main point of it now is so that they just get the paperwork in for what went on the past year, so it's in compliance.
Was he the one who's been doing it the last couple of years?
Cheb Nelawaika was.
I'm sorry?
Cheb Nelawaika was.
Oh, okay. So it's a new appointment, you're saying?
Yeah, because he's no longer on the
he's
council.
no longer a council, he's always a council.
We're not sure if the president or vice president could even do that. We're not even sure about that yet. So like,
Well, somebody needs some consistent or knowledge of what they're
Right.
gonna be appointed for, right?
Right. Did Copco do that in the past?
I don't know. Over here.
No, Joe was our EMA director, right?
okay.
That's why I thought
He was
Joe would
EMA
be
director.
okay for that fit, so.
I see Jimmy sitting there, he's smiling.
Having it in his
Do you want to see if there's any other motions or if they want to?
Yeah, I mean, we could, this is,
Revisit.
if anybody has, we have other motions, we'll visit at the end.
Okay.
All right. Motion made to reappoint John Marianacci, Fire Police Captain for Hose Company Number 1. We need a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Mrs. Smiles,
I'll second that.
Mr. Lipsky, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Noes? Motion passes. Motion to appoint Joel Skursky, Fire Police Captain for Hose Company Number 2. We need a motion.
All motion.
Mr. Herron,
I'll second it.
Mrs. Smiles, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any noes? Motion passes. Motion made to approve a waiving of Host Company Number 1 permit fees for the acquisition development of property located 133 East 8th Street. We need a motion.
Motion.
Mr. Borzell,
Second it.
Mr. Lipsky, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any noes? Motion passes. Need a motion to draft a resolution to bring back zoning to the Wyoming borough.
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Lipsky,
I'll second it.
Mr. Borzell, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any noes? Motion passes. Motion to allow the Boy Scout program to assemble in Wyoming. Any motion?
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Scults,
I'll second it.
Mrs. Smiles, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any noes? Motion passes. Now we can revisit this floodplain management. Any other motions to appoint somebody floodplain manager?
Can we bring the same motion back again, or no?
Right now we could, yeah.
I don't see why not. I mean, I just didn't know what it was. That's the only reason I did not second it. I had no idea what it was.
I mean, it's a volunteer position.
Yeah, I understand. Now, I understand it a little bit. It's government red tape is what it is.
So we had a motion, Mr. Kopko, Joe Kopko, before the motion didn't get a second. Do we have a motion for Mr. Kopko?
I'm making a motion for Mr. Barzal.
Motion on the floor for Mr. Borzell to be appointed to floodplain manager. We have a second.
As long as there's no conflict, I'll second that.
Okay, we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any noes? Motion passes, Mr. Borzell. And if you need any help with it, or if you have any questions, I'm sure we'll all work with you. We're not even exactly sure ourselves what's happening here, so.